because today will be a very, very short section actually, just doing a basic introduction to Azure, and then the next live coding session, which is the last one for the internship proper, is where we'll be doing, as I stated in the last live coding session, we'll be completing the CD part of the last um completing the CD aspect of the last live coding session. So we implemented continuous integration. Continuous integration is when it gets dockerized automatically and gets pushed to Docker Hub. So the continuous deployment, the other part, or continuous delivery, as it is used much more, will be when we deploy to an Azure service. So today we'll just be doing an overview of Azure, and then we'll try to deploy manually that container that we worked on the last time. So can you see my screen? Hi, can you see my screen?
Good, good, you know.
Sorry?
Yeah, I can see the screen. Thank you.
Alright, no problem. So this is Microsoft Azure, and it is the Microsoft counterpart for cloud delivery services. Amazon has Amazon Web Services, Google has Google Cloud, GCP, Google Cloud Platform, and all of them. So these are the three big players in the field. There are a lot of other ones also. I think these guys, IBM also they have a cloud platform where they provide. Oracle also has one, but the major players in the market are the big three. That's the Microsoft Azure, Google GCP, and Amazon AWS. AWS actually has more market share than Azure in this. AWS actually has more market share than the other guys in this field. So, as I said, we'll be deploying. So, just to confirm, let's go back to Docker Hub. So, let me see. So, this is Docker Hub, and let us see the image that we pushed the last time. So, exactly, this is Docker Hub. Exactly, I think so. We had our last live coding session. This is 8 days ago. So, version 2 latest, we pushed it with two tags. Quote gen. So let's go into the repositories. So yes, this is the image that we worked on the last time where we deployed automatically. So this is its code gen. So the aim today is to try and see if we can deploy this to Microsoft Azure. So Microsoft Azure is for the students. I don't know if there are any student taking the course currently that have gotten to this stage, but if there are any students, Microsoft provides a Microsoft provides a free subscription for students. For every student that sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, sorry for that. So for this institution as an institution email, you can use that to sign up for the GitHub Education Pack. And with the GitHub Education Pack, you have access to some benefits. So benefit as in free courses and free credits in some instances. So Microsoft Azure, after they purchase GitHub, so they as Microsoft after purchasing GitHub, so one of the benefits they provide as part of the GitHub education benefits is 100 USD for Microsoft Azure. So you have 100 USD to test out, deploy stuffs. But immediately you use more than 100 USD, you have to start paying. And also in Nigeria, we have this issue currently of paying for Azure services, because since that time that there was this policy where they stopped Nigerian debit cards from making international transaction. That was when the issue started. So after they stopped that international transaction from going on, we had to start using virtual debit cards and all. So at one point, I think last year or so, Microsoft was just stopped accepting virtual debit cards. So for people that use cheaper cash and all of those kind of stuff. it won't work with Microsoft Azure. So the two ways to pay is if you get a DOM account. So with a DOM account, you are able to get a DOM card that you can add to your Azure, so they will accept that. Or with your DOM account, you'll be making wire check transfers. So you transfer the amount that you have incurred to a bank account that they will provide to you after the deadline for payment has passed. So it's actually quite yeah, something that bugs us in Nigeria currently. But for the stage, for anyone that opens a new Azure account, you should be able to have access to the services because there's a free tier service. But what I don't know is if they have changed their policy, because before you did not have to add a debit card for you to have access to the 12 months free services. But now, after signing up, you have to like add a debit card, and after adding a debit card, that's when you can start using those 12 free month services. So hopefully, I don't know you guys, but for signing up, I've had some cases where the virtual USD worked. So for signing up for Azure, that's for people that don't have an Azure account yet. Because I remember there was a time we worked on Azure in one of the stages, and I saw on this channel that some people had opened up their Azure account. So for people that don't have yet, you can try virtual USD card and see if that will work, at least to get the 12-month free services at first. So as I was saying, so this is the Azure. So the service we'll be using today is the web app service. Is the web app. So yes, this is it. Azure App Services. So all of these services, they have their equivalent in other platforms. So in Azure, it's called web apps. I think AWS also called it apps. So for example, if I come in and say AWS equivalent, AWS equivalent for exactly for Azure App Service. So you can see Amazon Elastic Beanstalk. The equivalent of an blah 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 is Elastic Beanstalk. We manage. So this is a platform where you can just deploy your apps. So they provide things like Beanstalk and AWS. Okay, apologies for that. So um exactly. So this is the AWS equivalent. If I come here and pick up the same thing, let me just do a copy and paste. Okay, Control C and then Control V. And let me change this from AWS to GCP. So the GCP equivalent is exactly what is Google. So this is Google App Engine. So with Google App Engine, you can do exactly so for any cloud service provider that you are using. Once you get the basics with any provider you have learned with, is it will just be a thing. Porting to another cloud service provider will not be too much of an hassle, because all you just have to do is to get the methodology for which that cloud service provider provides that same service, and then you are good to go. So before we go into that, let's look at the Azure free services. So for Azure free services, so they have like the list of different services that you can work with. So as you can see, popular services are free for your first 12 months. So for the first 12 months, you get all of these services for free. And then they have 55 plus that are always free. So as long as you have an Azure account, you can always use these services. So for services that are always free, they write always here, and for the ones that are free for just 12 months, it's 12 months. So for example, for virtual machines are paid, but for the first 12 months you can have what virtual machines. Then blob storage is just like even if you must have heard of something called AWS S3 buckets. So Azure's solution, or Azure's equivalent for S3 buckets, is the blob storage. And what you can do is you can basically keep anything in a blob storage. Just a blob storage can have different containers. You can even use like different file service. So we'll go into this blob storage and see. I think I should have a blob storage that I can showcase to you guys where you see different things. So virtual machines always. So let us click here to see all the free services. So these are all the free services that you can get on Azure. So most times if you want to do anything, you what most times when you want to work on something, you can see that, for example, you can see the app service. So the app service free for is always free. So that's one of the best things, because 10 web, mobile or API apps with 1 gig storage. So you can create 10 apps. So once you create 10 apps, then you cannot create more. You have to delete one to create another, but it is always free. So as long as you have an Azure account, even if you don't have a subscription, you can always deploy a web app. And we'll see with this app service how to deploy one. And you see that there's no deployment you are going to make, even for people that are working on personal projects, deploying of machine learning and stuff like that. You will see that every deployment that you are going to be every deployment that you are going to be making with Azure app service, you can have them for free. You don't even have to start paying, because previously one of the most popular method for deployment was using Heroku. So a lot of emphasis was laid on the usage of Heroku back in the days, because Heroku was very, very easy to use to deploy for they had support for most they had support for most services, but Heroku was built on AWS. So at the time where Salesforce, so the guys that started Heroku at first, you get, as usual, they started it open source and all of this kind of stuff, not profit oriented. But then they sold the platform, the Roku platform, they sold it to Salesforce. So when Salesforce acquired the Roku, then they let them know that they revamped it. So people had to start paying to make use of Heroku. And if you're going to pay to make use of Heroku, you could not like have those services. But with Heroku also, so I keep implying, for students, being a student is one of the best time where you can practice a lot of stuff. So for students, Heroku also has they also use the GitHub. So GitHub education, Microsoft that's actually a very nice incentive. So they have tried to centralize all of the benefit that students can get. So with a GitHub education account, you can see a list of different benefits. So Heroku is one of those benefits that you can have also. But for people that cannot make use of Heroku, this is another option you have for you to make any deployment. You just have to be able to use the app service, and you can deploy with the app service. So I'm just talking about a list of different services that so this is automation is always free. You can the bot service is always free. So if before the time of OpenAI, ChatGPT, and all of this kind of stuff, you know that we've always had intelligent assistants. For example, I think everyone here, we are all Nigerians, so you guys should remember there was a time where this UBA assistant was very, very popular. I think that was Leo. So there was Leo, I think they called it Leo, I can't really remember. But UB had this assistant when they were like the assistant was very, very smart and stuff like that. So before the advent of ChatGPT and all, where LLMs had been existing, yes, but like we had bots also that were able to like respond and imitate how a human will communicate with people. So one of the services that was behind some of those technologies then is the Azure AI bot service. So with the AI bot service, you just have to develop bots. So you give these bots the knowledge base with which they are going to work with, and that's why it is always free, and this is the limit you have. So as a company or someone that is even trying to like you're working on a project and you want to integrate a frequently asked questions or a chat with us section, this is a service that you can find handy. And I don't probably because Azure is still trying to like gain more market share. You will see that they have a lot of free services. Most of these free services, if you check, we'll check AWS services also, and we'll try to see what AWS offers us. AWS doesn't offer even half of this as free service, even on their 12-month free plan. So this is the current time to leverage on Azure to like try and make sure that you are able to use it. You'll be able to use it, and when you are able to use it, you can just because being cloud agonistic now is one of the in things in town right now, because everybody is moving to cloud development and stuff like that. So using Azure right now because I still foresee that to get to a time where it will not be this free, where they will have to start like charging more for their resources and stuff like that. But at at this point it's still okay. So this is the bot service, and so this cause so these are these ones now, they are not free every time. They are just for 12 months. This content safety, AI, customer vision and stuff. I think I once read a paper where the guy wrote a paper, and what he used to as the AI for the facial recognition. Was it face? I don't know if it was facial, but it was something that had to do with recognition. I think it was for receipt or currency, and this was the service he used. I've also seen Amazon as they have the alternative, their own. Amazon use something called detection or detection. I think it's DECTRON. So they use detection, and that's their own service. So all of these are AI services that they have written. You don't have to code anything. All you just have to do is you read the documentation. The other documentations for how to use them. So if you want to use this um for example this customer vision service for your own case, you won't even have to code. But if you are going to code, um it will be minimal because they've done all of the aspect of AI. Yours is to just know how to use that aspect of AI. Then there's the Azure AI language. So all of these stuffs, they are very, very free. Even for container, see, this is container apps. So these container apps are also what? They're also they're also very, very useful. It's another way for you to deploy. Because if you remember correctly, the last live coding session, what we focused on was containers. So if you are able to spin up a container, you remember that you can access your container via the web. And if you're able to access your container via the web, then you can just like write it's like you are visiting a web page. So with container apps, this gives you that kind of flexibility also. So with that flexibility, you just put your container app in this container, and then you expose the endpoint of that container to the public, and then anyone from anywhere can access your container the way you would have accessed your container locally. So that's another very good one. But the fallback is that for you to have a container here, it needs to have a container registry, and the container registry is not free. So that's one of the reasons why I tell people to use web app, the app service, rather than to use the container service, because for the container apps, you need to have a container registry, and this container registry they charge you per hour or something. I've forgotten. I once had an issue where I used the container registry unknowingly. I had forgotten that my 12 month has expired. So I was using this container registry, and they charge, I think it's per hour or per day, forgotten how they charge then, with 100 gig storage. So but for every container app you deploy, although that is free and will always be free, you are going to what? You are going to have a container registry that will be incurring costs basically. So um health service and stuff like that. So those are, they have a lot of different stuff that you can just check, a lot of no code stuff. So when you see people that are talking about no code and stuff like that, Azure is one of the things that they can use. So this is Azure functions. I think I saw that just now. So these are the functions exactly. So this serverless. This is also another very, very great tool. Is used for when you have like an event where the code you are writing is just going to work for a short time, and that's all. For example, the best use case for this is sending emails or notification. So let's say for example, when someone signs up on your platform, whatever platform it is, let's say you developed a platform, and the organization is looking for a way that whenever someone has signed up on a platform, a mail is sent to the person. So you can, it's something you can use functions that immediately the sign up action is done, it triggers this function, and what the function does is to just send the email and it ends. So functions, the equivalent on AWS, which is very, very popular, is AWS Lambda. So it's something that over the time you must have had at one point or the other. Yeah, AWS Lambda. So with AWS Lambda is basically what their function do. So they are short-lived code, but they are hosted. So you don't need a platform, you don't need an OS, you don't need this one. All you just need is the programming language and the function that that code is meant to perform. And then you connect it to an event or a trigger. So whatever is going to trigger it. So immediately that is done, it triggers it, the code does its function, and then it stops running. So it's a way to save money. So they call them serverless. So it's serverless code because it's a way to save money, save time, save resources. You just have to write the code that does a piece of function. And there are some architectures of backend that everything there is serverless, in the sense that they all have code. The front end is the only aspect of the code that is hosted. I think when I was coming up and learning DevOps, then I once worked on a program. So the only part of the project that we worked on, it was a to-do app. So the only part of the project that was actually hosted was the front end using React then. But everything about the back end, adding to-dos, deleting to-dos, adding images and stuff, they were handled by a serverless function. We did not use Lambda or AWS function. What we used was serverless. There's another platform called serverless that is dedicated for implementing serverless architecture, but that's basically what they do. And it's a way you see that your flow will be easier and faster. So that's everything based on that. So that's a brief general introduction to Azure. So you should always, before you start using any service, you can always visit this web page because it's always there. So Azure free services, they will always list the free services they have as a reminder. And you should always ensure that you are using the service that you want to use. For example, see this service container app. If I come here now and I search for container, I'm showing this because I once had this issue where I incurred a lot of loss, and it was actually before I could sort it out, it took me quite some while. So this is container apps, this is container instances. They look almost similar, they look very alike. The only difference is this is called apps, this is called instances. Container apps are free, but container instances are not free. And container instance takes, for every day that a container instance use, I think it takes up to like 11 USD or thereabouts. So they charge for container instances daily, and for every container instances there's a container registry, so you're paying for both the container instance and the container registry. And they don't advise you to use a container instance unless you just want to, probably, for example, you don't have a, let's say for example now, the time what happened then, there are cases where probably your system is down or something, and you want to like work on a container, on a dockerized container or something, or a dockerized or a bundled dockerized application. So with container instances, you can just try to, because this is just basically like using Docker, but using it on Azure. So it's just a different name, because as I said the last time, Docker is not the only container management service that we have. There's another one. There are a lot of them also, but the most popular just happens to be Docker. So if you want to use something equivalent to Docker on Azure, so your container instance is what you need, but you have to ensure that you delete it almost immediately. So if you leave a container instance for too long, you'll be incurring a lot of costs. It's one of their very expensive services. So when you're using a service, you have to ensure that you're using the actual service. So imagine you wanting to use container apps, but you are coming here and you're working on container instances. So you see that it will be a whole lot of issue, because you might not even check. Because then I know I'm not someone, because I know before I use any service, I try to ensure that I check if it's a free service. And since the service is free, I don't even bother to check my um cost management or billing cycle and all. It was just after the old cycle, because the way Azure bill is, they bill it the 11th of every month. So in the next so they don't give you the bill on the first day of the month, so it takes 11 days. So but the bill is from the first day to the 30th day, from the beginning of the month to the end of the month. But when you get the invoice, it's around the 11th day. So until I got the invoice, that's when I realized that I had made the mistake in using container instances instead of container apps, and it had incurred a lot of charges. I think then, for the 2 months where I spent it up, I was already owing, I was in debt of around 140 USD or something. So you have to ensure when you are on the cloud, you have to ensure that the service you are using is actually the service that you intend to use, and you don't make mistake in spinning up a wrong service that you don't need. Okay, so think that's enough for introduction. Before I go on further, is there any question based on the introduction? Any question of sorts? Probably something that I've been trying to ask, if they can use the cloud for whatever you are trying to ask before I go into using for web app. All right, so since there's no question, let me check on YouTube. So there's no question. So let me continue. Okay, so to create our web app, Let us go back to the app service. Okay, so now I want to create a new app service. So you can decide to create a web app or a static web app, a web app plus database, a WordPress. So these are the different options you have. But a static web app is a web app where there's no backend. It's just a lot of different front end files linked together. So it is static. It is just serving the files for whatever it is you want to use. AWS equivalent for this is they use their S3 bucket to do the static web app hosting. So what AWS does is that the S3 bucket that they provide to you for storage, you can change or you can use that same S3 bucket to host a static service, since a static web app just requires you to have the different files that are linked together. So we'll be creating a web app. Okay, so this is loading up already. Okay, so when you want to create a web app or when you want to work on Azure, the first thing you need to know is that you always need to provide what subscription you are working for, whatever subscription it is you want to deploy your resource to, because you can have multiple subscriptions. As you can see, I have like 3 subscriptions here, and this is the available subscription now. So you, for every service you are planning to deploy on Azure, one of the first questions you are going to answer is what subscription is it going to fall under, and then you always have to specify the resource group. So a resource group is basically just as it says, a resource group. It's a platform where you are able to collate all of the different services you are using. So it ensures that it gives you an easy way for you to pinpoint that this is a particular service that I've created at some point in time, and it gives you an easy way to what, to either modify that service or delete that service. So with a resource group, you can see every service that belongs to that resource group. If you delete a resource group, you delete every service that belongs to that resource group. So it's a way for, so let's say you're working on a project where after working on the project, you're going to delete it immediately. You don't have to start, and the project has a lot of different services. You won't have to start um looking for each and every service that you have created to delete them. All you just have to do is to what, is to go to that resource group, get the um resource group. So you probably create a new resource group for it. So that resource group, you then delete that resource group after you are done. So I'll just use a resource group that I have existing before, and that's the class story. So what's the web app name? So what did we name it? Quotes gen. Okay. So let me say quotes gen deploy. Okay, so this code and deploy. So what this here is trying to tell you is that after you deploy your web app, this will be the, because when you deploy a web app, you need to have a URL. So it's just like for every website you visit, there's a URL that you are going to, there's a URL that you are going to visit, and the URL denotes what's the URL denotes the live location of that what web app. So anywhere in the world that they put in that URL, it will ensure that you are getting to the intended destination. So after you name your project, this will be added to the end, and this is what denotes that this is a what, a web app, and then you can provide this URL to anyone to, so that this is my project. But for in a development and a production, when you're working for organizations, you won't want this, you won't want your URL to be like this. So you can replace the URL for your web app with a custom domain that you know. So whatever 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 custom domain, if it is a .com domain, a .net, a .ng, whatever it is, you can replace this regular one that is provided with that, and with that you are good to go. Okay. So one-time stack. So what is our one-time stack? Our one-time stack for our code is what, is Python. So this would have been the case if we wanted to actually put our code into this like if we wanted to put our code into this web app, where we provide our code files and then we'll use those code files to run the app. But we have dockerized our app already. So when you are using a Docker container, you don't have to stress yourself anymore. All you just have to do is to just provide the what, the Docker image, the working Docker image, and this working Docker image is what you use to deploy your web app. So that's why it's always advised to always Dockerize most of the time, because once you Dockerize something, you deploying is going to be very easy, and moving from one environment to another is also going to be very easy. Imagine you are using this code, you can have an issue where when you are uploading all of your code files, then there will be an issue, probably a network disconnect or something, and then one file gets uploaded halfway, or there's an issue in the streaming of the file, and then the content of the file gets scrambled. That will break your code, because you will not know. You will not, if it's a large code base, you won't be able to open each and every file to spot check. So it's a large code base. But if it's a Docker container, if the Docker container does not get uploaded up to the end, it doesn't what showcase that you already have a Docker image. So let's say there's a network disconnect, you will just see that the Docker image stopped uploading. So the only time with which your Docker image is moved to a platform is when all of the content of that Docker image has actually been moved. So you are ensured that there will be no changes in what you expect. So our Docker container was one in a Linux system. So you can choose the region, whatever region it is. I'll just use the default region because we're not using anything. So you need a Linux plan. So a Linux plan is for you to, because this is me selecting a Linux operating system. So for the Linux operating system that I selected, um you need a Linux plan, and the Linux plan that tells you what price it is. So yeah, this is where you select the pricing plan. So for this basic plan, you have one virtual CPU and 1.75 memory gig of memory. So that's the basic plan, but we want the free plan, so that's USD per month. You can see this now, you pay 12 USD per month, and this is 1.75 gig. This is actually very okay. On Heroku now charges, I think Heroku now, but then it's a little bit expensive. Heroku for deployment, Heroku charges 5 USD per month for his basic plan, and his basic plan is just 500 MB. So for the other plan that is a little bit, I think that's around 750 MB, is 7 USD. So then it's almost the same thing. So this is the basic plan of 12 USD per month. So you see, some people can create apps. If you want to create, let's say for you are working on machine learning a machine learning project, for example, and you want to deploy, let's say, the backend where you have deployed that machine learning project, you will probably need a plan that has a GPU, and you can see this is virtual CPU. So you have to look for that plan that has GPU. You can see, explore different ones, and they'll be very, very expensive. This is just 32 gig memory, 16 gig memory. So let's say you want 8 gig memory for your because we all know machine learning models can, okay, they are simple ones, but let's say a deep learning model will probably need something this fast, and if it's a very, very large model, so you'll be paying around 281 USD per month just for that service. So but that's by the way, we are using the free plan, so zone redundancy, that this is based on that. So let's go to the next one. Okay, so let's go to the next one, the database. So, oh yeah, so we don't have access to database. Let's go to Docker. So this is where we select the container. So this Docker Compose, it's still a preview. They have not perfected it yet. But if you can remember the course content of the last stage, remember that we spoke about something called Docker Compose, where you can use one Docker Compose file to spin up different Docker images, and all of them will be acting as one. So it's basically a way for you to like create a group of Docker containers or a group of Docker images where all of them interact with each other. So you can do something like that with a web app also, but most times it won't run, because a Docker Compose means you are probably working on 3 or more containers, and those containers will each need space, or they will each need RAM. So for example, for the free plan where you have just 500 MB, your container will just get stuck in the creating, it just gets stuck creating, because the memory available will not be nowhere near enough for you to work on the Docker container that you want to work on. So we have it on Docker Hub and it is public. So since we have it on Docker Hub and it is public, so you can select the Docker file. Okay, so this configuration file that tells you where you want to, how to access the, so if it were to be private, it will tell you to provide the username and password. So it is public, and then let us, so you can, a configuration file, so you can decide that, but let's leave that for now. So let's go to the next one. So we don't need networking, monitoring, tags and create, review and create. So this is still working, but we have to go back because we have to actually specify the image name, because I've not seen where we are going to specify the image name. So I think they have changed what they used to call it. So let's go back to Docker when this eventually stops loading. So we'll go back to Docker, and in that configuration file aspect, we are going to specify the image name and the tag for that image. Okay, I don't know why container. Okay, exactly. So this is a continuous deployment, so you can do all this after the application, blah blah blah. So let's go back to Docker. So it is public. So let's go and select that Docker file. But then I don't think it's Docker file. That means they've updated this. The last time I worked on this, you just have to specify the image. But let's work with the Docker file first. So let me select the Docker file. Okay. So automate containerization. Exactly. So it's not a Docker file that is expected. Let me just come here and see. Oh, it's not Docker. I need a single container exactly. So the reason why it was, so if it was to be this, I'll provide a Docker Compose, but I'm not using Docker Compose. All I need is a single container. Exactly. So it is a public container, and then so let's go here and pick up the image. What's the name of the image? Oh, Adenio. So you have to include the username because they don't know your username. So if you don't know your username, they all know that it's Docker. So but you remember I said that you can use you can just say dockerhub.com slash the username of the person to take you to that person repository. So that's how you get that. So this is container gen, and then so which was the one that was working on 7 days ago. Let's use the latest one, 8 days ago. So let me use this one of 8 days ago. So that's I think that's V2. The one for 8 days ago is V2. So let's put that here, V2. I'm seeing an issue that will come up here, but should I make it? I don't. Time is fast spent, and I have an appointment by 11. So let me just mention it. You can see that when we copy this, we just copied from here and we pasted it here. But you should see that there is a space. Can you see? Let me try to see if I can highlight it. Between this Q and that slash, there's a space. So when Docker is trying to pull this image, it will pull this all of this space that have been included there. It will be what included in the image that is going to be trying to pull. Then you get an error that the image cannot be found. Why won't the image be found? Because in the image there is no space after this what after these letters, they are all together. But because of the way this is formatted, we are just doing a copy and paste. So we are just copying what we saw online. So you have to be sure of whatever it is you are providing. So if I do not do this here and make sure that I took away those white spaces that were there, you will just see that your Docker container will just tell you that there's an issue. It will just tell you that you cannot find that image. So as usual, why I know that is because I faced the issue before. So you have to ensure that whatever image you are providing is the correct image, and um you are sure of the image. So let us just see the review and create. So you can see now that this is the image and the tag is Oadeniran code gen v2. It's a Docker container, blah blah blah. Let's create this Docker container and then tag. So let us create it. So if our deployment goes as usual, you should not get any issue. But the only place where I'm seeing that we can have an issue is in the ports, because I think the default port for Microsoft App Service is port 3000 or thereabouts. Meanwhile, in our ports, what we have is I think is 8080 or something. Meanwhile, in our ports, what we have is port 55 something, so there will be an issue. But this has so this is the first resource. So two resources are always created when you are deploying to a web app. The first resource, this is the um Linux app resource, so this is deployed, and then the deployment for the web app is still in progress. So we should not this web app should not run, because for the app service you have a default port. If we were using the container service, you would have seen that we would have an option to specify what ports we are going to be accessing our web app from. But then let's just wait till this goes on, and then let's see what happens. So I think we are going to have to do that. So our deployment is complete. You can see deployment details. So this is the first, these are the two. So let's see code gen deploy. Okay, code gen deploy, and then let us try to open it. So when you click on browse, you see that it will take you, it should change now. The name of this website should be codegendeploy.asp something something .net, but you see that it will not come up. The reason it's not come up is because there's an issue, and the issue is that exactly, so this is the website, codegendeploy.azurewebsite.net. So you can see that if I click on this, this will not come up. The reason why it's not coming up is because there's actually an issue in that port. For web app, the port has to specifically be 8080. So we thank God for the fact that in our live coding session, in the last live coding session, what we did was an automatic deployment. Yes. So let me just change my screen. Okay. So I'm going to try to bring up the document, the one we used in the last live coding session. Then I will share my screen to show you guys the Visual Studio Code automatic containerization. Can you come up faster? Okay. Okay. So let me change the screen I'm sharing now. Let me just share my entire screen. So can you confirm that you can see my Visual Studio Code here before I continue? Can someone confirm?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So what we have to do now is we have to make some changes to the port. So we have to make two changes actually. The first change we are going to be making is we'll be making a change to um the port that we're making a change to the port where we are running the app on. That's the first thing. And then the next change we'll be making is that we'll be exposing the new port in the Docker file. So based on those two, that is what will allow our web app to work. So um let me just start making those changes now. Okay, so I think, yeah, that's plugged in. Okay, so we'll come here, and then we need to make some changes. The first change we're making is in the index.py. So yeah, we have to specify port, and the port is equal to what? 8080. Okay, that's the first thing. So let's save this, and then in our Docker file we have to expose the what? Port 8080, and let's save this. Normally I should build this locally and then test again, but I think it's not something that we should do because we have automatic deploy. So just going to come here. So I'm going to say open up a terminal, and in the new terminal, so git add git commit am. But then should I change? Well, I don't think we need to change it though. In the Docker file, I mean in the CI, the version that will tag the version that, let me see, let me just change it. Oh, I see. So it was even the, so we should have taken the latest even. So let me see. Let's go back to Docker Hub. Where is Docker Hub? It should be here. So what we should have actually taken from here was this latest and not V2. But then it is what it is. So I'll say, don't let me use latest. Let me use latest too. Okay. So use correct ports for app service. Okay, then commit. Sorry, I committed, so I just have to push. Let me push this. Oh, I should have an issue actually, but let me just show you guys because I've deleted the API key that we're using. Where is GitHub? So let me just show us my GitHub page. Okay, where are my repositories? So let's go to that repo. We should have an issue with that repository. So I'll just have to exactly automatic containerization. So I think I've actually deleted it. Let me check the action. So exactly. So the reason why you have this issue, you see incorrect username or password. So I'm having this incorrect username or password because I've actually deleted that API key. So to just let me create another one. Account settings. Okay. So I think it's under the security and then access tokens. So this access token cancel. So let me create a new access token. So git action as usual, then generate. So I'll copy this and I'll go to my repository. Then in the environment variable, okay, where are you? Actions, exactly. General. So in the environment variable, environments, where are the environment variable that we said that last time? Okay, secret and variable for actions. So this is the environment variable exactly. So this is the personal access token. So I'll change the value for this access token. So this is the new value. Update secrets. Um, confirm. Exactly. So that access token has been updated. So I'll just come here now. So let me go back to the. Let me just go back to the actions. So I should be able to rerun this action. Yeah. So let me rerun this. So I should be able to rerun exactly rerun jobs. So rerun field jobs. So let us rerun it. And this time we should not have an issue of authentication. Okay. So setting up the job. So you can see now that I've logged in. So I'm not having an issue of logging in anymore. Okay. So it is rewriting the token now. So based on what we just created. Done. So work directory code. So let's just wait for this to finish up. So once this is done, we'll then create. So let me just start the process of creating a new web app. So let me just say web app. Let me just say app services. So let me just create another one while this is still here. So web app. So we'll call this. So let me say I see select this one. So I'll call this quotes. Then deploy to exactly. So it's a Docker container. Exactly. So it is the free plan. So this now I don't need to create a new one. I'm still using that free plan then. So I'll just move next one to Docker. So it's a single container. It's on Docker Hub. It is public. So now let's check our action. So our action has run successfully. So if we go back to our Docker hub now, so copy and close. And if I go to our repositories and let me check here. So you can see now that we have another tag latest to. So imagine I had to go through the process of building docker build dot docker push and all of those stuff. So that is one of the things that um automation and continuous integration provides us. You get, we don't have to go through the process, manual process of having to build, do all of those stuff again. So in this place now, we'll be specifying quote gen. Okay, it is here. We'll be specifying code gen, but this time we'll be pulling latest two. Okay, so I have to delete this, then sorry. So the tag is latest two. Alright, so let's just review and create because there's nothing else I want to do. So hopefully without an issue now, our code should be running on. Okay, just before I do that though, let me just do a Python index.py to ensure that I'm actually using the right command of port. Index.py, exactly. So you can see that this is now running on port 8080. So if I just copy this address, Control C, and I go to my local browser here and I paste this. So this is the simple playground app. So let me come here. So I'm sure that this is correct. Latest to now let me create this. So once this gets deployed and the port mapping is done, we'll see that we should, what we are seeing here, this we are playing with Docker, this is a simple playground app, is what we're also going to see in the new deployment. Okay, so let's just wait for this to finish up. So the deployment is complete. So deployment details. Okay, that was for the first one, I think. Okay, so let's go there. And now let us see what we have. Okay, so how do I access it? Exactly? So now let's just click on browse and then this is come up. So this is still coming. It's still saying it should not take this much time. So I think there should be a place where we can check the logs. Okay, okay, so it is running. Mm. So let me see exactly. So this is the log stream. So if there's an issue in the log stream, we'll see. Because I don't expect it to take this long. Since it's taking that long, then there's probably an issue somewhere. So let me see what the issue is here. Oh, exactly. This is actually running. So we can see that this is error. So info. This is a development server. Okay. So I don't know why this is giving up as an error because here it doesn't come up as an error. It's just a warning. But here it is saying it as an error. Let me try to see debug mode. Okay. So I think probably it's because of this production server stuff. This might be the reason why I'm facing this issue. But then I should not have. because we can, based on what we have here, we can see that this stuff is coming up as expected. So if we're not seeing it, then it's probably an issue of development server and all. Okay, so let me see. But then if this is not working, or have they changed the ports that they are meant to use? Let me try to see if HDSC will work. Let me see. Did I expose this in the Docker file? Yes, I exposed this. Alright, so I expect this to work at all in the first place. Let me see. So let me just come here and see. So let's just, so these are issues that one will face almost every time when we are deploying. Okay, so let me see. Deploying Flask app to app service. But while that is running, let me just quickly make a change here. So let me remove this inside the index.py file. Let me remove this posts. Let me remove it from serving unknown host and just specify the ports. So let me specify just the port. So let me specify just the port first and let's see if that will change. Okay, so let me control C and then the index.py. So now this is listening on just one port. So let me stop this. Let me do git add, git commit am, removed multiple hosts. Okay, now let me do a git push. Okay, so if this has pushed successfully on our GitHub page, you should also see that another action is running, and the new action. So this will also be tagged latest too. Exactly, you can see an application error. So now there's no timeout. If you can remember correctly, the last one we had was saying there's a timeout, but this one is giving application error. So yeah, this is C, Control C. Development server do not use one another address is Control C. You can see that it is actually working, but then there's an error somewhere. So this now is telling me that this should work. So um let me open up this stuff again and see. So let's browse exactly. So now we are now good to go. So if I open this up, you can see now that we are good to go. So as this run successfully. So let me now try to see. We go to the log stream again. Log stream again. I want to see what it will be saying. So I want to know if it is actually our deployment that just worked now that made it work, or if it was just waiting. So you can see on another addresses exactly. Image is up to date, latest 2, successful, expose 8080. So you can see now that there was actually a change. So because you have actually changed this stuff, so let me clear all of this and now let me reconnect. So because we actually deployed a new image, and in the new image we remove that part of it running on every host, you can see now that that is why we don't have that issue. So just to didn't respond on http pings on port failing start, see You are now connected. Welcome, get 8080. So let me just clear this. So just to confirm, let me get this app service deployed. So I'll stop it. But if you browse again, you see that we have this now. So if I stop this, okay. So I want to see if it will run on all hosts or not. And now let me start this. So if I start this now, I can check the logs, the log stream. Oh, this is the log stream, and it is actually still starting on all responses, but I can say that because we removed, because I'm actually saying that it is because we deployed a new image and we did not specifically deploy the hosts. So if I reload this now, so generate codes, you can see that we're able to generate different codes. So let me see. Warm up request, login, initialized and saving responses. So it probably took some while, but this is it starting up already. So with that, we have come to the end of today's live coding session, and we have been able to see how to move from our local development. So with this now, if I just this particular, so this is still loading. So there's already, because of the backend and stuff, so image is up to date. It's still actually trying to pull the image and all of this kind of stuff. But once it is done with that, and if I send this link to you guys on Slack, you can access this deployment and see everything that I've done. So it is just like basically I've deployed the web app already. So with that, we have come to the end of today's live coding session. Is there any question that I have to answer? So I'm saying that there are no questions, even on YouTube. All right, then. We've come to the end of today's live coding session. You guys, you're welcome. So you guys have a wonderful rest of the week, and we'll see in the next live coding session. The next live coding session will basically be a repeat of this, but we won't be deploying with our hand manually. We'll be using Git actions to try and deploy automatically. Bye bye for now.